So the situation that Dr. Lyons is talking about happened a year ago. A year ago, Keynote was acquired by Alltech. And I'm really pleased to tell you that in that year, things have gone really, really well. Over that year, we've pushed into new markets. We've launched new products, some really cool new stuff on the market. And we've also started combining some of the Alltech technologies with the Keynote sale. And what we bought a year ago was an iconic machinery brand, a brand that was an innovator in diet feeding. But what we discovered when we bought them was that it was also a pioneer in the Internet of Things. I didn't really know what the Internet of Things was a year ago, to be honest, but I've learned very quickly. I've learned that the Internet of Things is just this giant network of connected things. So you've got people connected to things connected to things, and people connected to people. Some examples. These are everyday things that we see around us. We have tracking devices for our fitness. We have home diagnostic kits to help us diagnose whether we have ailments. We have medication systems. We have baby monitors that are not anything like the baby monitors that I had. We have devices for our home. So, for example, we have heating systems that automatically learn your preferences. We have smart light bulbs, light bulbs connected to the internet, where you can adjust the color, the intensity, and change the lighting from your cell phone. We even have smart locks, which uses biometrics so that you can gain access to your house. The city, we all have seen all of these stories about autonomous self-driving cars. But what about street lights that go dimmer when there is a full moon, or that brighten up when there's no moon? And I live in Dublin. We have these big belly trash cans all over the city. They're powered by solar, and they compact the trash. They're everywhere. In industry, we can track our assets. We can track our cargo. We can track and maintain and repair machinery. We can even monitor consumer behavior so that we can make smarter, better decisions when it comes to marketing. And nature is no different. We can also track wildlife, bees, water, trees, anything. So the Internet of Things is literally anything in this world. Last night, I was chatting to the folks from Quantum Genetics in Canada, and they gave me a really cool example of what is practically happening today in agriculture in the Internet of Things. These guys take ear samples or tissue samples from cattle down on feedlots in Texas. Those tissue samples are sent up to Canada, analyzed for their genetics. There, the genetic profile is sent through to the computers back on the feedlot in Texas, and sorting stalls, gates, automatically open and close and sort those animals into groups based on their genetics. So there's one simple idea of how Internet of Things works seamlessly across different things. The chairman of Google says this. He says that there are going to be so many devices, sensors, things that you're wearing, that things that you won't even sense them anymore. It'll be part of your presence at all time. He says that the Internet's going to vanish. He says that it'll become part of everyday objects in life. And the way in which we interact with the Internet today, or have done so in the past, is going to completely change. But why now? Well, the cost of sensors, the cost of bandwidth, the cost of processing, all of these things have dropped drastically in the last 10 years. And they continue to drop. And that means that we now are looking at about over 20 billion connected things by the year 2020. This year alone, we're going to be spending somewhere around $2 trillion just to set up that infrastructure. Our world is changing really, really fast. How long do you think it takes us to watch 69,500 hours of Netflix, or maybe 44 million WhatsApps, 150 million emails get sent, maybe 2.7 million videos are watched? How long? A week? A day? An hour? Try 60 seconds. The world has got so fast that the numbers are simply mind-boggling. We're also moving into a new era. It was that in the industrial age, it was estimated that our wealth and our quality of life doubled every 100 years. We've just finished the information age, or just finishing the information age, and in that age, the wealth of the planet has doubled every approximately 25 years. But now that we're entering into the intelligence age, we're actually expecting that wealth to double every 15 years. And the numbers are just staggering. Actually, too big for me to even comprehend. But 4 billion connected people, 25 million apps, 50 trillion gigabytes of data by 2050. Everything is going to change, and it's changing very rapidly. The big number, though, for me, is this number on the screen here. $11 trillion opportunity by the year 2025. And that opportunity is something that we can all tap into today. The big companies out there are already seeing these opportunities. And so you've got companies like Ford, for example, expecting to have 10 million connected cars by 2050. You've got Google snapping up some of these smaller startups for pretty handsome sums. And then you have companies like Intel that have designed their entire forward strategy on big data and Internet of Things. So all of the big guys are jumping in. But what's really interesting to me is where most of the action is. You know, most of the action's around smart homes, wearables, smart cities. That's what we experience every day. But look at poor old farming down there, right on the bottom. Smart farming's nowhere. But honestly, when I go and chat to the industry, the guys at Intel, the guys at Vodafone, for example, that's the bit they're interested in. Why? They know that we need to feed this huge growing population. They also know that in agriculture, there's a huge potential for growth. And they also know that there are many, many things that we need to connect in agriculture. So when I started a year ago in Keenan, I didn't know what IoT was, but I also didn't know that we were a leader in IoT. And so it's been interesting to note that we are now at the forefront. Let me explain briefly what it is that we do, though, just so you have an understanding. What you see on the screen there is our Keenan mixer wagon. And what we do is we put feed ingredients in there, soya, hay, silage, those kind of things. That machine then has a little device on the side. Has a little device on the side which has the diet of the animal loaded in, and it directs the activities of the farmer. It tells the farmer what to put in next and how much to put in. That farmer then loads the machine, and it records what has been loaded. It then also records the number of rotations, how much time that machine mixes for. The machine then sends the data via the cloud to a group of people in Kilkenny, Ireland. And in that hub, that InTouch hub, we have algorithms that determine whether what the farmer did was in fact what he was supposed to do. And if there's a huge deviation from that, it raises a flag, and we can contact the farmer or intervene in some way. We can equally gather data from third-party devices, things like motion detectors, video, weather, and other health devices. And so all of that data can come into Kilkenny, where our nutritionists are trained. We can then decide on what to do with it. We can either phone the farmer and chat to him about it, discover what his issues are, or we can go directly back to the machine, load up a new diet on the machine, and so that the next morning when the farmer comes in, he just follows the new diet, follows the new instructions, and goes forward. We have real-time monitoring of diet and animal performance, so we can correlate what the farmer fed with what he was supposed to have fed, with what the animal produced. And we can give real-time advice on that ration and that formulation. Right now, we have 3,000 interactive users, and we have more than 300,000 cows, but that number is growing really, really fast. We have about 33 dedicated employees just to this little startup tech division. And there's a company that you may have heard of. This company uses us as a bit of a poster child for the Internet of Things. This company is wanting to get into smart ag, and they're a supplier of our equipment. This company is called Intel, and this company uses us every day in advertising pieces just like this. There's another company that also uses us as a bit of a poster child, and that's Vodafone. Every single machine that we have has a Vodafone SIM card in it so that it can connect to 3G wherever there's a network in the world. And so this is just one little, this is the one page out of the yearbook for Vodafone where they use us as a case study for their involvement in smart agriculture. So Dr. Lyons was talking about the fact that I'm an implant and I've now been thrown into Ireland for a year. So have I learnt anything? Well, the first thing I think I've learnt is that technology is going to radically disrupt your business model. And I think this is possibly the most interesting part of my experience there. If we think that by adopting technology, we're just going to carry on with business as usual, we're wrong. We cannot just bolt on a technology and just stick with the same business model. It doesn't work that way. And if you think about someone like John Deere, they've gone through the same curve. They used to sell 20 years ago really good quality equipment. Today, they sell a bundle of equipment and technology, and what they sell on farm is performance. They're not selling steel anymore. And the same is true of Keenan. In the 80s and 90s, we used to talk about the fact that our machine was built like a Russian tank. We were talking about the fact that it was very good engineering, strong, reliable. In the 2000s, we started focusing more on the fact that the output from the machine was better than the output from other machines, and that it actually improved the nutritional value of what it mixed and improved animal performance. Well, as we've moved into this new era of digital technology, it's changed again. Our value proposition today is all about feed efficiency. We're talking about the bundling of multiple things that are going to give one overall effect of improved feed efficiency. So the only thing we sell today is feed efficiency. I think that the biggest challenge with ag tech and the biggest challenge with ag tech startups is monetization. Who pays for this? We keep on talking about the farmer paying. There are generally three ways in which we try and monetize smart tech. We either ask for a subscription, we sell advertising, or it just gets incorporated into the bundle, so whatever we're selling just has tech bolted onto it. I firmly believe that what we need to monetize ag tech is a consumable. In the case of Nespresso, for example, they sell coffee. The machines just come along for the ride. And so what we've been challenged with in Keenan is this idea of putting three into one: the machine, the tech, and Alltech's nutritional excellence. We have to pull all of that into one. And the way we've done that is by introducing a consumable. The whole idea behind a consumable is not that we're just selling more to a farmer. The consumable must reflect the data and and must be designed around the data that we have. So the consumable, which in this case we call a NutriPod, has to be designed specifically for use in a Keenan machine, and specifically around that farmer's requirements as we understand it from the data that we can collect. And so the entire model is designed around customer experience. This in-touch business of ours that we manage in Keenan is a seamless integration of machine, technology, nutrition, And the end objective of this is only one: feed efficiency. The second thing I've learned is that digital technology can massively improve performance. And there's so many examples of this. But if I just pull off one relatively mundane one, last week I pulled off this data straight off our monitors in InTouch. What you see in blue is the overfeeding or underfeeding that the farmer does on farm. So how often that farmer has overfed his animals. And what we see there is a 3.5% error, operator error. It's not a lot. In fact, if there was no digital, you would never even pick it up. 3.5% is just too small. But 3.5% in the case of this farm in the UK has cost this farmer $5,000, £4,000 in the last 5 months. That's 12 grand a year just needlessly wasted. We all know that processed foods are bad for us, but they're also bad for cows. And so what our Keynote machine does is it monitors the number of rotations, how processed that feed is. And so on the same farm in the UK, in blue you will see how long that farmer was supposed to have mixed. And in red you will see how long the farmer actually mixed for. Aside from the wear and tear on that machine, aside from the extra fuel that he wasted, he also has reduced his production efficiency by between 10 and 15%. So when we look at InTouch, as I've said it so far, we can reduce waste at loading, we can improve the diet quality, and we can give really precise dietary recommendations. And all of those three things, on average, across our 3,000 clients that we have around the world, give us, on average, 200 grams per head per day more in beef and about 1.5 kilograms more milk in dairy animals. Not insignificant. The third thing I've learned at my 1 year in Keynote is that we're in the midst of an agricultural revolution today. Before joining them, I often thought it was something of the future, but it's actually something that's happening right here, right now, and it's pretty damn exciting. There's another conference that just finished on Friday in San Francisco. It's called IO17. It's about the same size as this conference, 4,000 odd people. And this conference is a showcase for a little company over there for their new technologies. This conference is Google's conference. So I had a quick look just to see what new stuff they're bringing out, because if I'm saying that things are going really quickly, well, what's in the market today? What have they launched last week? Well, look at this thing. They launched something called VPS, Visual Positioning System. And VPS basically allows the cell phone to track visual objects to within 1 centimeter of accuracy, so that that cell phone knows exactly where it is in space and time. So GPS that we know will get us to the front door of the store, but VPS will get us to the actual item on the shelf that we want to purchase. Another thing they launched last week, you can point your camera at an object, any object, and it's going to come back with data on that object. So, for example, you can point it at this flower, and you can know what the flower is. You can know the distance to your local florist. You can maybe get linked to your Wikipedia page on it. You can point the camera at a restaurant, maybe make a booking. You can maybe know the opening times. And then the one I really like is, have you ever tried to fiddle to try and get connect your cell phone to a network? Well, you can point this thing at the sticker on the back of your network router. It'll automatically recognize that it's a network router, and it'll just connect you without even asking. And I think that's much needed. Yesterday, you would have heard from Aidan Connolly as he spoke about the 8 big disruptors that he believes are going to change our world. You'll also hear, just after me, what the Pierce Lyons Accelerator Group have done with some of these technologies. There's exciting stuff out there. We need to adopt these technologies if we are to get a bite at that $240 billion of revenue that Goldman Sachs says there is available for us to get. The investments in ag tech have grown exponentially, and it actually peaked in 2016 at $4.6 billion of investment. It's unprecedented. In fact, I think it was so high that it actually pulled back a little bit in 2016. But interesting to note, 2017's got off to a cracking start, tripling investment so far this year. There's also a lot more resources out there. Companies like this, AgFunder, allow you to go online and invest directly in startups. You can take your own money and invest in ag tech startups. You can also take your own idea on there and raise your own capital. There are other resources out there now. The world has changed. Innovation Showcase is a company that does accelerators, and we used a company called Dogpatch. Really did a fantastic job for us in Dublin. There's also blogs, articles, forums. There's a lot more information. Things have got a lot more vibrant in the world of ag tech. These are the top 10 investors in ag tech from last year. Look at this list. Is there anything that you see strange about it? What I find strange about this list is that hardly any of them are in agriculture. Most of the investments are coming in from outside. Maybe people outside of our industry are seeing things that we're just not capable of seeing. There is this convergence of nutrition, ag tech, and this convergence is having massive effects on the way in which we produce food and on the farmers that produce that food. I was at Trinity College 2 weeks ago, visiting with the provost there. It's a magnificent institution. Really, I encourage you to go and see it. It's in the heart of Dublin. More than 400 years old. And what the provost was telling me is that after 400 years, they've decided that they need to change. They need to change to make people who are more capable of interacting and facing this brave new world. They have decided that they are no longer going to have 3 separate faculties for natural sciences, computer sciences, engineering. They want to bundle that all together so that the people that they produce are more rounded and capable of interacting in this new world. So, in this new world where we've got trillions of things connected, where we've got ubiquitous artificial intelligence, in a world where you can ask any question, anytime, and get an answer, in that world, the most important thing that we need to learn is learn to ask good questions. So with that, I'd like to ask Dr. Lyons if he's got any good questions for me.
All I can say, come on, Robbie, come over here. I would highly recommend that you spend a year in Ireland, because you're a hell of a lot smarter now than you were when you went over there. Or maybe I'm just getting stupid, which is another possibility. Why is ag not sexy?
I think it's becoming sexy. I think we're attracting better people than we ever have before. I just look at our CDP group that we get in. They're smart. They've chosen agriculture over other industries. And honestly, when I started in agriculture, it was really not sexy, and I think it has become more sexy. I also think that it's becoming very sexy as we integrate food with farm, with health, with consumer. That chain has just got so much shorter.
You got some, your boys.
Yes.
Presumably they got smarter too after the year in Ireland.
I hope so.
What will you do to get them into agriculture? Because again, when you look at the list that you showed us, there's not that much investment really going into agriculture. They're going into the information aspect of it. So how are we going to get the boys interested?
I think the word agriculture is wrong. I don't think that we are getting into agriculture anymore. I think we're getting into food. I think we're getting into health. I think we're getting into the environment. All of these aspects are now linked. So a career in agriculture is in fact a career in food. It's a career in health. And so they are keenly interested in their health. They're keenly interested in the environment. And my boys could absolutely be involved in agriculture. And I think that is something that they would like to go into, yeah.
The Celtic tiger, of course, died, and the Celtic tiger is now coming back. Have a lot of people started to study agriculture again in Ireland?
Yes, I think it's called the phoenix, rising from the ashes of the Celtic tiger. The number of people enrolling is up. And the demographics have changed greatly, especially in Ireland. You have many more females involved than before. And I think, again, reflecting what I was saying about health, females are interested in health more so than men for some reason. And I think they are wanting to get involved. So the demographics are changing. And I think it is vital that we bring more diversity into our own teams. We I think, do that quite well in Alltech. But I think as an industry, I think we do a pretty lousy job of it. There are a lot more people in agriculture, and specifically, referring to Ireland, Ireland is an export market. Ireland has people who are very capable of traveling around the world. And those people... and so even though it's a small country, it has a pretty big footprint in the agricultural world.
One last question. You spoke about the program that was over on the West Coast and the technologies they were talking about. How many of those technologies are applicable or can be adapted to go into InTouch?
The recognition software, I think, is absolutely fascinating. There's so much new stuff out there. The companies like Keynote, for example, who are looking at visual technologies, and that's exactly what they're doing on the West Coast. And that's on the visual side. And then the little example I used there of VPS, visual positioning system, that opens up the door to robotics. It opens up the door to smart loading of our machines, knowing where the animals are in relation to our machine, where the inputs are. And so knowing where things are is the first step to making things smarter. So yeah, we are going to be able to adopt those technologies pretty quickly, I believe.
Okay. Well, let's hear it for Robbie, the smarter Robbie.
Thanks,